We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Thursday. We got another great show for you. Trust me, hold on a second. I just want to give some programming notes. If you're somebody who listens to the Rational Boomer podcast, just the audio version, you're noticing a little bit of a change in how it's coming across. Now, for the longest time, what has happened is you'll have one half, there'll be a break with an ad of some sort, and then there'll be the second half. Well, I was informed by Spotify that I can't do that anymore. I've got to set up smart ads. So what that means basically is I set up the smart ads, and it took an hour to get an answer to this question. I said, if I put a space there, will you put the spots there? They go, we don't, tell me what you mean. I go, I just told you what I mean. Or do you just put them in random places? And after about an hour, they finally grasped what I was asking and said, no, they just go in at random. So when you're listening to the podcast, there won't be breaks like it was before. It'll be different. There's nothing wrong with your phone or anything like that. It's just, I tried to get them to keep it the way I wanted to, and they refused to fucking do it because it's Spotify and I'm not Joe Rogan. So what can you do? Just to give you a heads up. Now, a lot of people had a lot of great things to say about Will yesterday. People loved Will.
Mhm.
He's pretty fiery. He's pretty smart. And like a lot of guests, I just have to sit back, ask some questions, just provoke him a little bit, and he'll go for 10 minutes and give you all kinds of valuable information. So after coming out of the podcast with Will, I thought we should just keep our foot on the gas and keep it floored and bring in another such guest who I know you love because we hear about it every time. And of course, today is the day that Old Soul typically comes on. And Old Soul, thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, nice to be here always. I
Yeah,
like Will too.
Will's a good guy. He's a smart guy. How'd you like Larry?
Okay, so
I don't want to beat up on Larry. Larry's not
I
a bad guy, but
I can say honestly that I don't agree with his stance. However, I did get something out of it. Anytime that you're like canvassing and you are talking to Republicans, um, it's nice to know where they're coming from, like when they're saying the things that they're saying. And when you listen to someone like Larry who talks, and you can kind of maybe get inside their head a little bit and be prepared for that talking point when it comes up.
right.
So it's not for me. It's more about the conversation than it is about agreeing or disagreeing or trying to come to some happy medium, because sometimes that just doesn't happen. But as long as you're having a conversation, you can get something out of it. And that's my positive spin on Larry.
Okay, fair enough. Um, Before we get into the topics of politics and some of the crazy shit that's going on right now, we like to catch up with what old souls get into. And frankly, old souls always getting into shit, and we're always surprised by it. He's always extending herself. You told me before we went on the air that you're going on the road and getting into something else. And why don't you just tell us in general terms what that is?
Yeah, there are some displaced shelters in Texas because of Beryl. Greg Abbott is not a priority for Texas, period. These displaced women, we don't want them to end up back with their abusers because they don't have anywhere to go. So we're going to go down and help with them, just strictly them, nothing else. I was kind of surprised that it wasn't a priority for them, but then again, I don't know why I should be surprised. This is Texas. And then when I was like seeing that he wasn't even in the state, he wasn't even in another state, he was like out of the country
Yeah,
when this went down.
yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my God, he bailed on them again. But I think that the women and the children leaving those relationships are being overlooked. There's a couple of them where the organizers and the heads of the shelters, they're not sure if they went back or not, or what that situation is. So I'm just going to go lend a hand. My family is listening, so they know I'm not giving any specifics about where I'm at or any of that. But I will be in that area helping with those women. There is someone who is coming here next week, but my TT and my Auntie Marion, they are going to be here. And my daughter is back from her birthday vacation. So I'm keeping my promise of not turning anyone away. So
So,
there'll
so
be room for that person here while I'm there since I can't clone myself. But I do think that's important because the guy that works at the shelter that I volunteer for, he is a pro bono attorney for these women. And so when he asked me, I was like, yeah, of course. Like he never asked me for anything. So I couldn't tell him no. So
So just so
yeah.
people understand what's going on here, Old Soul's got a job, got a family, got a TT, got women coming in that she's taking care of. And now she's going to take off for 2 weeks to help women desperately in need, women in battered shelters who may be displaced because of the hurricane
Yeah.
that came through there. And she's going to spend 2 weeks in Texas, of all places, helping these women. Now that's admirable, but Old Soul, you got kind of a full fucking plate here. How do you make time to do that?
I work remotely, so I can work from anywhere. So it's not as crazy. I think just as long as I'm organized, I'm okay. And I think that I'll be okay. I do have to shout out the company here that's paying for us to go there is Planet Fitness. I got their t-shirt on. They're paying for the volunteers from Vegas, and then there's some other volunteers from other states. So the states where Planet Fitnesses are, they're like sponsoring us to go there. So they're paying for everything. And I'm supposed to say, if you're like in the Houston area and you need to charge your phone, use the restroom, take a shower, you can do that at Planet Fitness, whether you are a member or not. You can do that. So you can go there and do that.
You know, it's funny. You know, when I ever ask you about some of the things you're doing, you go, it's nothing crazy. But let's remind folks, you spent a number of days going giving talks in prisons. You had a woman you never met in Colorado that was trying to get to you and couldn't because she was in the hospital. You flew there, you stayed there for I don't even know how long, and took care of this woman. And now you're going to Texas to help battered women. All of this is admirable. I think a lot of people are amazed by what you're doing, but you got to admit it's a little crazy, a little crazy.
I think that what my grandmother would always say, you turn your tragedy into triumph. So being in an abusive relationship, going through the things that I went through, I didn't go through it for nothing. So I think I went through that so that I can reach out to other women who are in that situation and try to help as best as I can. Um, and so I think that's what keeps me pushing, and I always have that in the back of my mind, but it's really not that crazy. It's just helping women and children and trying to keep them on the right path and not put themselves back in a bad situation.
Now, you said you have another woman who needs reproductive health care, and she's coming from a state where it's legal. She's going to
Yeah.
stay in your home, which you've done a
Hmm.
number of times, but you're going to be out of town in Texas, and your family's going to come together and help this woman. Is there any particular story behind this woman, or is it just kind of the same thing we normally hear?
Yeah, there was supposed to be someone who was 13, but I was like, I will take her, but I've been doing everything in my power. The way we're organized now is they know what type of women works best with which volunteer. And we have like a couple of like junior high school and high school like guidance counselors and teachers and stuff. And that's where they've been trying to send the younger girls, like teenagers. I'm cool. But those very young ones, it's so hard. And so she was supposed to come here, but luckily the person that they were sending to her, they rerouted her here and they're going to send the 13-year-old to the counselor. And so the girl that's coming here, it doesn't seem like it's anything too tragic, but at the same time, she's one of those people who doesn't really like open up and tell you a lot. So I don't know if she's going to do that when she's here, but the couple of conversations that we've had, she hasn't really been too open about it. And she's not like young. I think she's like 20 years old, and that's it.
Well, that's pretty young, and the fact that she needs reproductive health care and she has to flee her state in order to get it. That's tragic in its own right. And you're there to help. And you know what's interesting to me? I'm always amazed when you tell your stories, Old Soul, how your entire family comes together. Uncle
Hmm.
Cleo, your Titi, your grandma, your mom, everybody, your daughter, they all come together. And I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking, if I was stuck on the side of the road in the rain with a flat tire and maybe bleeding, I could call some family members and they go, "Oh, the Big Bang Theory's on. I don't really have time now." But your family comes out in force and
Yeah.
does extra like you do. I mean, that's very admirable too, knowing that you will do these things, but it sounds like your whole family's willing to do that.
Yeah, I do think I try to take their feelings when it comes to me into consideration as much as possible and still do what I feel is best. But they do worry a lot. They jump in and help a lot just so that I'm not doing too much. Even when I'm at home, I'm working from home, but they'll still say, "Hey, if there's a girl or a woman here who needs a ride, okay, yeah, I'm cool. I can take her." And then people don't understand, like most of the people in my family, they old. So like my TT,
Like
like she
me.
retired, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like, hey, what are you doing today? And she'll be like, well, what do you want? And so it's like, she's at home, she's babysitting or something anyway. And so she's free to do that. But that's why we don't have like in my family, we don't really put our children in daycare or anything like that. Because there's somebody who's retired, just chilling, get up every day, make sure the baby has breakfast, doing their flashcards and all that stuff. But most of the people, they're old. People my age, we work and we do stuff, but we lean on them to help us out when we need help. And it just seems like I always need help more than my brothers and my cousins do. So
Well, these old people will get to a point where they need help too. So you better be ready to pitch in when that happens.
yeah, I will say that the wild child's grandmother, when they left, that woman had a blast out here because she lives with her children, she babysits, and if she's not at home, she's like picking up a child, dropping a child off, taking a child to work. Like, so she had a little bit too much fun when she was out here. Like my TT and the ladies, they showed her a really good time when she was out here. And so the wild child was like, "You probably gonna move to Vegas." And I was like, "No, she can't move out here. She'll be sick." And the wild child was like, "Yeah, or she'll be in jail."
Well, you told the story when they were out there about
Yeah,
grandma and her grandma getting together at the bar, um,
yeah.
getting a little overserved, which is something you don't expect of somebody who's that age. But
Mm-mm.
yeah, it sounds like she had a good time. She had a vacation. There's no question.
Yeah, she had a double date with
Oh,
my
uh,
TT. Her boyfriend has like, his grandchildren. I think he has custody of them. And so they were like all hanging out. So they went on like a date together. So like a little double date. That was weird for the wild child and her little cousin because they was like, we can't believe grandma is going on a date. But she went on a date. They got kicked out of bingo and they got kicked out of Walmart. But they didn't get like the police called or anything. They just took them into that little room and took their picture and told them they was like trespassed for like a year. But other
how,
than that,
how old are those people? How old are these people?
they like 70, I would say like 74, 75 plus. They
So
older.
these people are in their mid 70s and they go into
Yeah.
bingo and they go into Walmart. Walmart, for God's sake. Have
Walmart.
you ever been into Walmart? Shit, some crazy shit going on there. But these 75-year-old people created enough of a ruckus to get pulled back in the office and then trespassed for a year. My
Yeah.
God, old soul, what the fuck were they doing?
There was a guy in line, and I guess he was being rude or whatever. So they had their things on the conveyor belt. And so he pushed their things ahead on the conveyor belt and put his stuff there. So I guess he was just impatient or whatever. And so my TT, she just took her arm and knocked all his stuff off of the conveyor belt. We talking about eggs, milk, everything. It's just all over the floor. So they didn't get charged for any of that stuff. They didn't get the police called on them, but they did take them in a little room. They took their picture and like told them they was like 12 months they not allowed in that Walmart. And yeah, that was their little. That's why they got kicked out of Walmart. I don't know what happened at bingo. I just kind of like heard them talking about it, but I don't exactly know what happened in there. But I do know what went down in Walmart because my TT called. She was like, I don't know if they gonna call the police or not. I'm just giving you a heads up. Just keep your shoes on. I'm like, the heck? So I went there anyway because I didn't like, well, maybe they won't let them use their cell phone if they call the police. And then I asked what happened, and that's what happened. But they were able to go and all that stuff. They just, luckily, they didn't have to pay for the stuff that they knocked on the ground.
Wow. Wow. Well, I think it's fair to say that your grandma is not a vulnerable adult. It's the people around her that might be in a little danger.
The ladies, they don't play. When they get together, they have a they're not like that all the time. But what it was is she was here. She doesn't have like that much of a life. She hasn't really done anything for a few years. She got some health conditions. So they was just like, hey, we're going to show her a good time while she's here. And I think they went a little overboard with with the good time that they showed her.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. It's always
Yeah.
interesting to hear these stories. And I think there was a line in Stripes um, by Bill Murray. There was a guy there that was kind of an odd character. And I'm thinking about your grandma now, and this odd character said something really weird about cows and stuff. And Bill Murray looked at him and said, Lee Harvey, I want to party with you. And same goes for your grandmother. I want to party with her because I haven't had that much excitement in a long time. And it sounds like she's laser focused on doing some serious
Yeah,
carousing,
I
serious
guess
carousing.
I would just say if there's anybody who touches other people's groceries on the conveyor belt, if they're like old, just leave their stuff alone. Because my TT and the ladies, they was like, I guess they got offended that he pushed their groceries ahead on the conveyor belt. I
Yeah.
don't know, but whatever it was, all his stuff ended up on the ground. So
Wow.
he
Well,
won't do that again.
no, he won't do that again. Not with a bunch of old ladies, that's for sure. Um, you and I have occasion to talk about the Supreme Court and our difficulties and worries about the Supreme Court. Yesterday, a couple of things happened, and I wanted to get your reaction to it. First of all, um, the Senate, Sheldon Whitehouse, and the rest of the Democrats in the Senate have requested Merrick Garland to hire a special counsel to investigate Clarence Thomas. And that's reasonable. Clarence Thomas has some ethics issues, but he may have some tax issues too. We were talking about him getting this $275,000 RV, and the way it worked out was he got it as a loan, and this loan, he paid some interest on it for a time, and then he quit paying, and they forgave the loan, more than $250,000. Now, the problem with that is classified as a gift, which is contrary to the ethics issues. And it's also income. When somebody forgives a loan, that is income to you, and you have to claim it on taxes, which Clarence Thomas did not do. Now, in addition to that, AOC comes out from the Democratic caucus in the House of Representatives and issues or presents articles of impeachment for Samuel Alito. Now, I don't know what, if any of these things is going to ultimately culminate to, but what were your thoughts when you heard that kind of thing going on finally, some kind of accountability?
The first thing that I thought was it explains his ruling when
Yeah.
he sent that signal to Eileen Cannon in Florida and pretty much said that special prosecutors are illegal. So you need to, make sure you file that and get that to us so we can rule on it. That explained why he said that. But I'm glad that she did it because I do think that Democrats need to show the American people what they are trying to do, and so that they can see that any accountability that is supposed to be held, Republicans are not going to do it. And especially when it comes to the Supreme Court, it kind of looks like absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's no checks, there's no balance, there's no ethics. They're supposed to be, but they're the ones who are supposed to be monitoring themselves. Anybody who has children know, yeah, you just go leave them at home to monitor themselves. Let's see if your house is still there, not burned to the ground when you get back home.
Yeah.
But I do think that if it was me, I would have just done an impeachment on 6 of them. But I know she's not trying to be political about it. So I would say where the evidence is with Alito and with Clarence Thomas. I'm glad that she did it. And then the House Republicans have been doing such this dog and pony show about holding people accountable. And, they want to bring Hunter Biden in. They want to bring Biden in. They want to bring Biden's brother in. They want to bring like everybody. There's no evidence anywhere, but they're saying, hey, we need to hold people accountable. So it's going to be very easy to point out that, hey, when it comes to their people and we have proof, we have receipts, and they're not trying to hold them accountable, they're not keeping that same energy. So what they're saying is if they are Republican in power, they're better than everybody else, including me and including you. So I do think it's necessary to draw that contrast to what they've been doing and what they will do when it comes to holding their own responsible, which I mean, we should know that by now. We see what Donald Trump gets away with. So
Absolutely. Well, people shouldn't get too excited about this impeachment effort. I've had people say this. Why don't they just impeach him? Well, you can't do that without power. And these articles of impeachment are an interesting message, but they aren't going to be able to impeach Alito in the current status of the House of Representatives. Democrats don't have the majority. There's the filibuster in the Senate. So even if they did get through the House, they'd go to the Senate, and Republicans aren't going to vote against a conservative Supreme Court justice. But I think what AOC wanted to do was send a message like, just wait till we get power. You fucked around, you're going to find out. I think on the other hand, with Clarence Thomas, there are some legitimate crimes that he committed, and maybe some crimes that Alito committed. Maybe that's coming later, but there are some legitimate crimes he committed. And guess what? He doesn't have immunity. There's nowhere in the Constitution that even suggests that a Supreme Court justice had. I mean, they have favor and they have preference and deference just by virtue of who they are, but they do not have immunity. Do you get the impression that this is all just because it's going to be hard to get much happening before the election for as short as it is? Do you feel like it's just messaging and kind of slapping the taste out of their mouth to just give them a taste of what is to come?
I think that she means it, but I think she's realistic enough to know that it's not going to go anywhere. However, it does create a conversation or a talking point when it comes to these are the people who took away your rights. These are the people who are coming after Brown versus the Board of Education, for God's sakes. These people can only be held accountable if you make sure that A, Biden is reelected, B, we have a majority in the House and a large enough majority in the Senate to where we can hold them accountable, and it'll be easier to restore your rights. But if you don't give Biden that backup, he's going to be limited to what he can do. And I think that is going to be the messaging point when it comes to the Supreme Court. And when you can see how blatant and how corrupt they are. To me, it's always fascinating that Republicans, they get to say, George Soros. They say that over and over and over again. And you never hear Democrats saying, Harlan Crow and this person and that person. Like, they're not listing these people and demonizing these people the way that the right do. So I do think a lot of these donors, a lot of these people who are paying off these judges, we need to start weaponizing that name and making them into the boogeyman, because they really are behind the scenes pulling strings. Like, it's really true that they're doing that. And I do think we need to start using their names more, especially when it comes to like hearings, impeachment hearings. And I don't see any problem with bringing him down to the front either and asking him about these gifts that he gave to Supreme Court justices.
Well, I think, exposing and bringing to the surface some of this evidence and information is part of the whole ploy here, especially when it comes to Clarence Thomas. They're talking about a special counsel investigating Clarence Thomas's alleged crimes. But there's a paper trail that prove he did all these things. Now it's a matter of his interpreted as criminal. I think this puts pressure on Clarence Thomas and even Alito that between now and the election, a lot of shit is going to come to light. A lot of evidence is going to come to light. And I wonder if this isn't a way to apply pressure to Alito and Clarence Thomas. They both said that they would probably retire if a Republican is elected. But since we know a Republican won't be elected, they may try to ride it out another 4 years so they don't hand this over to the Democrats. But the Democrats might be in a position, motherfucker, you want to go to jail? Do you want to get impeached? Because when the Democrats have control, if they get rid of the filibuster and stuff, this is really what could happen. Do you think it's pressure to get them to start thinking about their future and realizing their future is no longer in the Supreme Court?
I think it's twofold. I think it's not only putting pressure on them, but I also think that when you put pressure on people who are used to being completely unchecked and just doing whatever the heck it is that they want to do to get themselves out of situations, they don't really think about it and they just react and they start making mistakes. Clarence Thomas, he already made a mistake. He knew that this was coming down. And so what he did was publicly send a message to Eileen Cannon that, special prosecutors, they're illegal. We should not have special prosecutors at all. And then the next thing you hear is there's supposed to be a special prosecutor into him. So the only thing that it does is confirm what it is that AOC and Democrats, especially in the House, have been saying. So already he is making mistakes. You have Alito, who is fumbling, telling lies that my niece could tell better lies than that. Oh, my wife, she did that. I ain't got no control over her, and then it's like more and more and more evidence comes out to prove the opposite of that. So I do think it's to make them squirm, but more so to get them to start panicking and making mistakes as well as messaging. What I don't want to see is if there's a majority in the House and the Senate and Biden is president, I don't want to see either one of these clowns just say, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and retire. You can put whatever judges you want in there, and then it just goes away. It's like whether you try to hang on to that seat or whether you try to retire, we're gonna hold your butt accountable so that the next fool that comes along can already know what these consequences are gonna be, and we can set precedents for that. Either way, no matter what they try to do, I still want to see them held accountable. And I don't want Democrats to let that go because they retired.
No, absolutely not. And I think Clarence Thomas is particularly corrupt, particularly egregiously corrupt. I mean, when you look at the list of the gifts and all those things taken, you've got somebody getting 50,000, 100,000, which is a lot of money, which is illegal. But Clarence Thomas has got
house.
He got $4 million over the period of his career, and his wages for those 4 years is about $4 million. Motherfucker doubled his income. And I don't know that Clarence Thomas can find his way out of this because, as I said, he doesn't have immunity. He broke laws. The IRS doesn't give a shit if you're a Supreme Court justice or a street sweeper. He clearly stole money from the U.S. government, and that should preclude him from being a Supreme Court justice. I think the pressure is going to be hot and heavy on Clarence Thomas. I think Alito's going to get stung, and he's going to see what is to come, and he doesn't want to get in Clarence Thomas type of trouble. He's just a piece of shit. Clarence Thomas is an absolute criminal.
Yeah, I think they both are. Have you seen that cartoon, The Boondocks?
I'm familiar with it.
So my community, we call Clarence Thomas Uncle Ruckus. If you know the character, that's what we call him. Some of the older people call him Mr. from The Color Purple because he is just like, there's nothing good about this person. You can't even try to feel sorry for him. No. I was kind of digging into his past a little bit, and I was like, yeah, I can't even find anything to feel sorry for him about. The only thing that kind of made me feel sorry for him, well, not sorry, but kind of just say, you must really not like yourself as a person, is when he met his wife's family and he was promising them that he would take care of her. And he pretty much said he's not like the other
black people.
Yeah. But he kind of had other choice words for it. And so he was just, pretty much saying that, I will hold her up high and treat her a certain type of way. to get them to feel comfortable with them being together. And when you
Wow.
think about that, you look at yourself and your accomplishments and where you're at in life, and you were able to bring yourself down just to get with this one woman who was already loopy in the head in the first place. It just made me feel like he has so much self-hatred for himself and his skin color and where he comes from, maybe that embarrassment and that shame that he
Yeah.
has within himself. I could really see that he was feeling like that, and honestly feeling like he just couldn't do any better. So I understood where that was coming from, but at the same time, it's just like there's no excuse for you for that, because you have to deal with them issues and those demons that you have. It's not for you to spew that out on everybody else just to make yourself feel better or to make yourself feel like one of them. So
It's interesting to tell that story. It reminds me of a hip hop song, an old hip hop song. I can imagine him going in and talking to these white future in-laws saying, "I'm pretty fly for a black guy.
yeah, pretty much.
I'm
um,
I'm one of the good ones. I'm one of the good ones.
yeah,
Don't
it's
worry,
just
I'm good."
when I look at him back then and I see like him being ashamed of himself, his self hatred, issues that he never really dealt with, you can see where that leads you to when you don't deal with that. Just that bitterness, that anger, that unhappiness. When you look at him, you can just see he is just a very miserable person. And I think that whatever that darkness is, it just grew inside of him and he's just projecting that out on everybody else.
Let me ask you this question. There are situations I've seen, we talk about racism, white people against black people. Um, do you see much, and I don't know what to call it. Is it racism? It must be racism. Racism amongst your own community? I've
Yeah,
seen it before. Black people racist against black people. Now that's what I would say, but I'm an old white guy, so I don't even know if that's accurate. But I'm
yeah,
asking you, what do you call it?
they racist as heck. And I have to tell you, so over these last few years, I've watched my daughter and Zach deal with that from both sides of it. So Zach, he always used to say that when like people would see him with my daughter, they would be like, "Oh, like how'd you get with her? Like you upgraded, right?" But now the conversation is different. And my daughter, she gets the brunt of it a lot of times, like, "Oh, you with a white man because you don't like black guys," or it's just like that. She gets that, he gets that as well. Um, the girl that he dated before my daughter, she just got a whole attitude. Like a whole attitude. Oh, so you just not gonna mess with white women no more? Like she is really mad at him because he is with my daughter, and my daughter gets it too from both sides. But when they first dated, it was like a whole different conversation. Like, oh, she's out of your league, you upgraded, or he used to have like a man bun and he used to look a little scruffy, but she cleaned him up a little bit. And people used to be like, "Oh, you got your Justin Timberlake on. I see you." But now it's like a whole different conversation when it comes to their relationship. It's it's weird. It's very weird, but they do get it from both sides.
I, I,
Um, I hate to see that because you can't look at them and see anything negative. Like they're both doing good, they're happy, and they just get it. You know what I mean? So
there's a story I told, and I can't say all the words, but I was in the music business and I was representing this very talented young black musician. He had some emotional issues. I had to hold his hand all the way because he was a typical artist, freaking out and anxiety and all this stuff. We were taking him to record companies in Los Angeles, and we had a meeting with a black A&R man, and he was a well-known black A&R representative for a big label. And we sit down there. We're sitting down there, and before we start talking, I say to the rep, I said, "Can I use your restroom?" And he says, "Sure, it's just right down the hall." So I get up and go down the hall. By the time I get up back, my artist is standing up and he's looking at this A&R guy, go, "Fuck you. Let's go, Mike. Let's get the hell out of here." I go, "Whoa, whoa, what the hell happened here?"
what happened?
And I said, "What happened?" He said, while you were out of the room, this guy um, was trying to get me to fire you and take on one of the managers that he was going to suggest, which record companies do all the time so they can manipulate and steal everything from you.
Hmm.
And so the rep is kind of embarrassed. I'm looking at him, what the fuck are you doing? I'm standing right here. And he says, well, I just thought he might be better off with it's his black music. He'd be better off with a black manager. My artist says, so this is what my artist says to him. And I'm just going, what the fuck? He looks at the guy, black manager, says, I'm not going to have an N word handle my money. And I'm going, whoa, wait a minute, man. This turned racist and it wasn't me. And it just shocked me. And I didn't know what to do with that. I got to represent this guy. This guy's getting chewed out by my guy who wants to get money from that guy. I'm going, this is going south real quick. Let's get out of here. And we did. And obviously there was no deal to be had there. But when I saw that, that really struck me because I'd never seen that before. Having And I don't know that he was racist, but he had a negative connotation based on color, his own
Yeah,
color, which I couldn't understand.
we see it all the time.
You know,
We see Clarence Thomas. We see Scott. We see what's that other one's name? I'm trying to think of it. Byron Donalds. And then there's another one, especially another one. He just did something where they tore his butt up in Atlanta and he had these real ugly boots on. I can't think of his name. But when you hear somebody like Tim Scott, when he talks about his mother, like when you think about his mother, the only words that would come to your mind is she was in the hood, she worked two jobs, and she was never at home. This just like stereotypical Black woman living underneath the poverty line. He never
right.
talks about her sacrificing and being there so that he could be in the position that he's in today. Like he will never elevate her and give her that type of credit. He will only paint that vision in your head of her being living under the poverty line, working two jobs, never at home, very stereotypical Black woman. Like that's all she was, that's all she did, and there's nothing more to her than that. And then we'll have Donald Trump come on stage and say, this dude is better than Martin Luther King Jr. Like he literally said that at a rally. And it's that there's so much, I'm not sure if he's just ashamed or embarrassed from where he come from, but when you see people like that, Candace Owens, all you see is a lot of self-hatred and they don't really know what to do with that. And so they just turn it outward and they just spew that out there like that. We
Well,
don't rock with them like that.
yeah.
These are people who cannot come to the cookout. You come to the cookout, you and your wife, because I know your wife like to dance and listen to good music. Oh, we cool. But Tim Scott, he ain't walking up in there. Ain't no way. He gonna get ran up out of there, just like they got ran up out of Atlanta when they tried to go there with this reaching out to Black people. They named the event Cigars and Cognac. That was the name of the event. And I was so happy because there was like a lot of older Black men who came in there and just handed it to them. And they had to sit there and take it, especially because Byron Donalds made that Jim Crow comment and trying to flip it around. And it's like, no, we heard what you said. There's a certain group of people where you can say something and you can tell them, well, that's not really what I said and that's not really what I meant. And there's another group of people who you can't do that with. We heard what you said, we know what you meant, and you can't tell me different. And I don't think that they were expecting to get that kind of heat. And
No.
I'm hoping that cognac and cigar thing is it's not going on the road.
Well,
If
I
it
will.
is, it's going to go to some of these events like these Black outreach programs where it's nothing but white people there that Donald Trump does. They need to stick to that. But coming up in our communities and our hoods with that, it's not going to go good. It's not going to happen at all.
Well, I can tell you, my wife and I have been to a cookout, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually talk about it a lot because I don't want a bunch of white people coming in and ruin this shit. Because if you've been to a real cookout, I mean, it was truly amazing. I was amazed. The food and the people and the friendliness and all this stuff. It's nothing I'd experienced as a old white guy or even a young white man. Um, there was a lot of it was just like a lot of love and friendship and all that stuff. And you don't always get that at normal parties. And when I say normal, I mean normal to me that I would go to. The one thing I would say now, who was the one that was ashamed of his mom, Donald or Tim Scott?
Tim Scott.
Tim
Tim
Scott.
Scott.
Let me ask you this: your mom worked too hard; she was never home. But somehow you got college educated, ended up a U.S. senator, and excuse me for saying so, you don't look like you missed too many fucking meals. Sounds like mom
Mm-mm.
did a pretty good job.
Yeah. Yeah. But he will not give her like when I listen to like my daughter talk about me, it's a completely different level. It's a completely different tone than what you hear him when he talks about his mother. He just puts her in that box of being a stereotype. He looks at his mother that way, and he
Uh,
never once thinks the sacrifices and the things that she went through helped him to get where he's at right now. He doesn't give her credit for that, and he won't. She really is a talking point, and she's just a prop that he uses when he's saying, I came from here. My mom, she worked 2 jobs and we were poor and we didn't have this and we didn't have that. But I did this and I did that. And it's like, oh, you did it by yourself? Really?
you know
But
what else? You know what
that's
else,
how he
Tim?
sees her.
You know what else Tim Scott didn't do? He didn't get
Hmm.
elected to the Senate. Nikki Haley
Mm-mm.
appointed his ass. He couldn't get enough votes to get elected, so Nikki Haley appointed him. And then once he got in there, he turned on Nikki Haley. What an
Yeah.
absolute piece of shit.
Yeah. He ain't get a real girlfriend either.
I want to get your perception on this. Some people suggested he might be gay, which is fine if he is, but if he doesn't own up to it, that's a little weird. Do you think it's a fake girlfriend because he's gay or he just can't get a date?
I don't know what his sexuality is. I don't know. But what I do know is that Tim Scott is utterly like insufferable. He
Yeah.
is one of those people who will end up by himself and he will not understand why he is by himself. And he doesn't have the wherewithal to just kind of step back and look at himself and see, you know what, about good 10, 15 people that broke up with me. I'm wondering if I could be the problem.
No, he'll never think that.
He's not that type of person that will have any type of insight at all. It's just going to be somebody else's fault. It's going to be his circumstances. I think some of my daughter, her patience, she's just like, yeah, when you go through stuff with your childhood, you have to deal with that trauma. But other people, it's like everything is your mama's fault, and you was like 40 years old. It's kind of like you have to deal with that and you have to move on. You can't stay stuck there. But I do think that Tim Scott, he's just an insufferable person. He's not likable. He's fake. We don't even know who the real him is because he doesn't know who the real him is. I just don't see anybody dealing with him like that. Not for a long period of time,
Tim,
unless you're being paid.
Tim Scott seems to be striving to be the black East Coast version of Ted Cruz. They're both insufferable. They're both disgusting.
They really are. They really, really are. I have to say, when I think about that they always show that picture of Ted Cruz when he's sitting there doing phone banking for Trump after he called his wife ugly, after he lied about his father assassinating somebody. The things that Donald Trump planted about, I'm just like, wow. And then when they went to his trial and you had somebody sit up there and explain all of the stories that Trump planted about Ted Cruz. And when he was asked about it, he was like, yeah, I knew he was lying when he said it. That's the only smoke that you got for him?
Yeah.
That's it? You ain't gonna say nothing else? I often think about these women who are married to guys like that. And I'm just like, they gotta have a boo thing on the side. There is no way that that is the only person in their life that they dealing with. It's like there's a contract somewhere, something's going on, and like, hey, we just need to make a couple appearances, and we married on paper, but you do you and I'm gonna do me. I can't imagine. I can't. You know what I mean? You can't stand up for me like that, especially when he's fat, bald, and orange. What the heck? You know what I mean? Like you can't. I mean, and he threw his own daughters under the bus too. How do you respect somebody like that? I just
That's frightening. It is
it's
frightening.
beyond me. Yeah.
Well, in the next half, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, the whole Joe Biden thing, the stepping aside, and all that's
Ooh.
going on. We're going to take a break now. Now, I say that in quotes because I don't know. Now that what Spotify is doing, I'm going to take a break because we always take a break, but I don't know what's going to happen here. It's either going to be a commercial or an ad, or it's just going to go right into the second half. Either way, you'll get two full halves of Old Soul, and it's worth hanging on for. So we will be right back right after this. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We're in the midst of a conversation with Old Soul. You can always count on interesting and informational conversation when Old Soul's in the house, as it were.
Hold on. Can I say something?
Sure.
I'm laughing because I got a text message from my TT. So one of the things that I do is because in Vegas, and I'm not the only person, a lot of people in Vegas do this. So when the like Amazon delivery guys come by, it's like 103, 104. It's like hot outside. And so I have like a sign that says, ring the doorbell if you want a snack. And so they'll ring the doorbell. The last girl that was here, her son, he would always run to the refrigerator because I put him in like the little brown paper bags. And he would always run and get the brown paper bags and hand it to them. But it's always like a juice, a bottle of water, some chips, and a sandwich, right? So my TT, she just texted me and she was like, girl, I just cleaned out my freezer. So like, I bet you these Amazon drivers, when I'm gone, she's gonna be giving them like a plate with like fried chicken and all this stuff. And it's like they just need like some water and a snack to get through the day. They don't need a whole meal. But I'm laughing because she just texted me that. I just had to say it.
Once again, here's
They're not gonna want me to come back home.
here's Old Soul going to the furthest extent. It's admirable how you think about other people's needs and you take care of those things. It's a little crazy, but you got to be admired for it.
A lot of people do that out here. It's hot. It's really, really hot. And the
Yeah.
wild child, her grandmother, I got her doing it in Arizona now. When she came out
Wow.
here, she's like, oh, that's a good idea. And yeah, she's out there doing it now. But it's hot. It's so hot. I don't know how the company does it. And they don't get paid enough to do that. But I mean, give
No.
somebody a sandwich and a bottle of water. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
They're not
again,
gonna want
that's
me to come back though when they see this, like
yeah.
fried chicken and stuff. I bet.
You come to the door and you're going to hand them a bag and they go, is TT in? I was feeling like some chicken actually. Yeah, the sandwich is cool, but the fried chicken is the shit. Well,
That movie is something else.
the topic that's most important these days, and frankly, I'm a little flummoxed as to why this is even a controversy or a topic. So Joe Biden, Donald Trump had this debate. Joe doesn't perform very well. He's either tired or sick or whatever. Um, my contention is that the Republicans do what the Republicans do. They wait for any tiny thing, they jump all over it, exaggerate it, make it a big thing to try to discredit Joe Biden, whoever their opponent is. Media sees this and say, oh, there's some shit flying around. Let's stir that shit up because there's money in that. And they did that. And with all this shit going on, some Democrats, instead of thinking logically and using common sense, they panic. Oh my God, if Joe's not capable, then Donald Trump will win. It'll be a disaster. So let's make an immediate reaction, an emotional reaction, and just replace him. I heard one representative say, well, Joe could probably beat Donald Trump, but it's so much of a risk. Wait a minute. You're telling me that taking a sitting president who's been extremely successful and making them the nominee to run as an incumbent is a risk, but going picking some motherfucker out of a hat and trying to put their campaign up to speed in 3 or 4 months, that's not a risk. I don't for the life of me understand this whole premise, but it seems like the Democrats have gotten on board to try to make this happen. Fortunately, I think Joe Biden is the one that makes the final decision. And so far, Joe said, fuck yourself. I'm curious as to your perspective with this.
The first thing I want to say is to like all of the people who say we need to scare the heck out of Democrats, progressives, never Trump Republicans. We need to scare the crap out of them so that they'll be motivated to go and vote. This is what happens when you scare the crap out of these people. A lot of this is just like fear, is worry, and it's a lot of people stressed out, and they are looking at just like the slightest possibility of Trump being reelected again, and they are losing it. And this is why you don't scare people. This is why you talk to people with sense and you give them logic, you give them facts, you try to keep them calm, and you try to keep them motivated. But scaring them, clearly, that's not the answer. I know why the court, well, for the Trump, MAGA, and the Republicans, they are doing it as a distraction. There's two folds to the distraction.
Absolutely.
The first part of the distraction is to keep people from focusing on Donald Trump's and his gaffes and his problems and his name being all over Epstein. His name was written in Project 2025 over 300 times. So you're distracting people from looking at Trump and all of his baggage. But the other part of the distraction is they are so distracted about should Biden stay in, should he stay out, what's going on, could Trump, they're not even focusing on Biden, his accomplishments, his policies, and his agenda for his second term, right? So they're distracted with the nonsense, which keeps people, or it prevents people from being focused on the actual statistics and what's important and what's going on. So they are keeping people distracted, not only from Trump, but from Biden, his policies, his accomplishments, and his next agenda. So there's twofold to that distraction. How are you sitting here and you're thinking about the huge infrastructure package that Biden put into place when Trump couldn't do it, when you're too busy talking about should he stay in the race or not? You know, how are you going to sit there and look at his stance on the abortion issue, his stance on making sure that marriage equality is codified? How are you not focused on that because you're focused on whether he should stay in a race or not? And it's like, okay, stop with that talk, make the case for Biden and keep it pushing, because right now you are just an extension of the Republican Party. And the reason I sound frustrated is because I am, because you have never Trump Republicans going harder for Biden than Democrats are. You have the Lincoln Project out there. I don't know if you've seen that ad about Trump and his second term. That scares the crap out of me, and I don't even think the man is going to win. And then you have the Republican Accountability Pact. They are out here pushing. I'm out here like 100 and some degree heat, walking around trying to make the case for Biden. And it gets on my nerves to see a Democrat sitting in the studio with air conditioning going on in a cushy chair, talking about whether he should stay in the race or not. And when I talk to a Republican, they go, well, Biden should drop out. Even Democrats say that.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, now how am I going to combat this? Because they are not lying.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I've said this too, and now you kind of confirmed what I was saying. This is just a prototypical distraction strategy by the Republicans.
Yep.
The media whipped it up, and dumb Democrats fucking fell for it again. And that's where my trouble with this is. Now, the problem with this is if you listen to the media, it sounds like all Democrats are for Joe Biden stepping down. If you take the number of Democrats in the House and in the Senate, it's like 2% of all the people that are saying this. I heard Hakeem Jeffries say, I'm with Joe. I heard Chuck Schumer, I'm with Joe. They're the leaders of these parties, these people we haven't heard of, and they're getting all this play. I don't understand. Here's the deal. People on TikTok with a lot of followers have gotten caught up in that panic, and they say, yeah, I think Joe should step aside. We got to get somebody else in there that can beat Donald Trump. I mean, we had one senator say yesterday that I don't think Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump and he'd lose in a landslide. Are you fucking kidding me? A ham sandwich would beat Donald Trump. Now the thing about it is here's my problem with these things these people are saying. First of all, they act like the polls have gone dramatically against Joe Biden. I sat and watched Steve Kornacki go through every fucking poll, and there's only been a shift of 1 or 2% either way, some for Biden, some against Biden. So there's been no dramatic poll shift in spite of what the media will tell you. And secondly, people say, why are you standing with Joe? And I said, because I've seen no evidence that he should step aside. What do you mean? The debate. Okay, the debate. I've seen a million things that would suggest Donald Trump should step aside, but nobody's talking about that. But let's what happened right after the debate? Joe went to North Carolina. He sounded strong and powerful. He gave a talk just the other day at NATO. He sounded strong and powerful. On that same day, or yesterday, he gave a talk in front of a union meeting. And that wasn't prepared. It wasn't written. He was talking off the top of his head. In none of those cases have I seen any problem at all. He's slow because he's 82, but he was clear and concise and accurate and saying the right things. If you took Donald Trump, any conversation that Donald Trump has, and put it next to Joe Biden, there would be a clear-cut reason to get rid of Donald Trump, but not Joe Biden. But these people insist on doing it. And you're absolutely right. And I was thinking about this. When I'm seeing particularly people of color, and I found that kind of interesting, they are fucking angry about this. They are angry about getting him to step aside. You can look at all the polls you want, but look at how many people are angry that you're fucking with Joe. That says to me more than polls tell me.
What we say is, I'm riding with Biden. Like, that's like the Black folks hashtag right there. And the reason that we're angry about it is because we can see that we went through so much. Like, I have family who went through a lot of crap. And I was telling you, I had a family member being lynched, and that's why my family left Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and migrated north, right?
Right.
People like died, sacrificed themselves, their children, their parents, their sisters, like sacrificed so much just to be able to vote. And you have Republicans out here basically saying, well, it's a privilege for you to vote. It's not a right for you to vote. So when you come to vote, like, I was looking at that Agenda 47, because when I come back, I'm going to do some like roundtables. And so I have to kind of like look at it and like be able to like talk about it. And one of the things that they want to do in Agenda 47 is you can't use your ID. You have to use proof that you are a citizen. So you can have your ID, but you need proof that you're a citizen in conjunction with that. And I don't think that they're going to take PRCs. And for people that don't know what that is, it's a permanent residence card. And that's what people get when they get their citizen to be a part of the United States. So even if you are here and you are made a citizen, it's like you're still not going to be able to have that right to vote if you don't have like your birth certificate, or maybe you're in Hawaii and your birth certificate looks like Obama's. Oh, well, guess you can't vote. So they're going to pick and choose who they consider a true citizen of the United States. And you can't sit here and tell a bunch of Black folks that you lucky we letting you vote at all. Wait until we get back in office again. It's going to be a privilege. It's going to be back to guess how many beans is in the jar type of situation. So it's like, it pisses us off when we sit here and we see the Republican Party, what they're doing. We know what they're doing. And it just kind of seems like Democrats are supposed to have our back, and they're not doing that. So yeah, it pisses us off. Beyond words, it pisses us off. I know why. So have you seen that list of the CEOs of the news organization who donated to Trump's campaign? It's like all of them, even CBS, MSNBC, all of the major, like all of their CEOs have donated to the Trump campaign. So the reason that the media is doing that, it doesn't take much to figure out. When you look, when Biden was running, that was like Bernie's race to win. But what was Bernie doing? He was out here talking about Medicare for all. He was
Yeah.
talking about a wealth tax. He was saying things like, we shouldn't have billionaires in America. So if you want to have $999 million, that's cool. But once you hit that billionaire threshold, then you need to reinvest that back into the country. If it wasn't for this country, you wouldn't be at $1 billion in the first place. So he was out here saying stuff like that. And the corporate media and just corporate people in general, that freaked them out. So they started throwing all of their money behind Biden because he was a centrist. He was like a safe person. It's like, okay, we know Trump is going to lose, but what Democrat can we use that is going to be a centrist? He's not going to push these ideas on us. He's not going to try to make college free. He's not going to try to do Medicare for all. He's just going to be like just a regular centrist, boring Democrat. What does Biden do? He get in there, he's trying to take away student loan debt. He gets in there, he's trying to lower drug prices. He is sitting there, he's like, oh yeah, we need to make medical affordable for all Americans. And he's saying stuff like, hey, if you own all your student loans, we can't put that on your credit report. And what people don't understand is when they don't put that on your credit report and you don't have that negativity on there and it raises your credit score, guess what they can't do? They can't charge you a higher interest rate based off of your credit score, right? So these people are looking at Biden and saying, hey, he got his butt in there and he is doing what we didn't want Bernie Sanders to do. So what do? Now they turn their back on him and they try to uplift Trump and they try to make Biden look like he's feeble and all this other kind of stuff. If you pay attention, you can see that they're doing that. And you can understand why they are doing it. So yes, corporate media and corporations that went to bat for him before, they went to bat for him because they didn't think that he would be doing the things that he's doing. And he's standing with unions too. Get the heck out of here. So these corporations, they do not want that. It's just that Biden didn't play it the way that they thought he would. And they don't want him in there for a second term. Now when he's talking about they need to pay their fair share, now when he's sitting there talking about corporate greed, now when he's pointing out the fact that, yeah, they're raising their prices, but they also have record profits. So the inflation that we are seeing is from corporate greed. We need to put an end to that. Even junk fees, bank fees, all of these little things that he's doing that people don't talk about, corporations do not like that. The corporate media, they do not like that. So of course they're going to go against him for that.
I wonder.
So that's where it's coming from.
I wonder if you've noticed this, or maybe I'm noticing something that doesn't exist. But when these Democrats start talking about having Joe step aside, they're always asked, well, who should we put in there? Whoever. Well, let's be honest. The only obvious choice is Kamala Harris. She's the heir apparent. She's the vice president. She's on the ticket. She has access to the money. But no one's committing to Kamala Harris. And I find that troubling. Because to be perfectly honest with you, if Joe did decide to step aside and Kamala took his place, assuming she could win, I'm cool with that. I don't have a problem with Kamala. But it's weird that the Democrats will not commit to Kamala, even though she is the obvious choice. That sounds a little racist to me.
It is. And let me tell you, do you know who Seb Gorka is?
Yep.
He used to be in the Trump administration. Now he does all this stuff for Newsmax, right?
Right.
They were asking him, hey, Biden, he's too old and he should step aside, and they are putting out there that Biden's going to drop out and they're going to put Kamala Harris up, right? I don't want to misquote this man, so I'm going to tell you exactly what he said. He said, she's a DEI hire, right? She's a woman and she's colored. Therefore, the left thinks she's got to be good. At least her brain doesn't literally freeze mid-sentence. He called her a DEI hire, which means she's not qualified. They're only putting her there because she's Black. He called her a woman and he called her colored. So the reason that people like me is not that we have a problem with Kamala Harris. We know that when you put Kamala Harris on the ticket instead of Biden, this is what we're going to get for the next 4 months. It's going to be nonstop. It's going to bring all the racism out. And there are even women out there who go to like Turning Point Ranch and they listen to Charlie Kirk and they have the trad wives and all that crap going on. A woman should not be in that position. You have churches that are going to be telling their congregation, a woman cannot deal with Russia. Woman cannot handle her own against Putin, against Xi, against anybody on the world stage. That is what it's going to be. So it's not that we have a problem with Kamala Harris. The racism is going to be like up times 20. And it's just like, it's a distraction, and it's keeping away from anything that she tries to say, anything that she tries to do, that is going to dominate the conversation. I actually like type that down because I'm like, when I have to quote him when I'm talking to people, I don't want to misquote him. That's exactly what he said, word for word.
Well, let me ask you this. What you're saying there, you're talking about Republicans and their racism and how they're going to message this all over the place. But these Republicans were never going to vote for any Democrat anyway. So does that make it a problem for her in the election? Will the people on the left say, yeah, I accept Kamala? I mean, people say, will you stand with Joe? And I do stand with Joe because I see no evidence for him to step aside. All the other stuff is bullshit. It's phony messaging, which we hear from the government altogether. But I got to be honest. Joe is 82.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me, do you think you can make it the next 4 years? I don't really give a shit because I don't care about the next 4 years. I'm a firm believer. If you've got a problem, you take the first thing and you deal with it. And then once you get that problem behind you, you deal with whatever next issues come up. The only thing I'm concerned with right now is winning on November 5th, getting Joe inaugurated, having the Democrats in power. Then if Joe wants to step aside, cool. That's fine. As long as the Democrats have power and we can continue forward in this process, we'll be better off. But if you throw Joe Biden out and Kamala or whoever else in there, and who knows if they can win. Joe clearly is going to win if he goes against Donald Trump. He's the better candidate. Donald Trump is the worst candidate in the history of this country for president from a major party. I'd love to argue at that point with anybody who wants to argue it. Joe Biden's going to win. There's no question based on how people are coming out to support him. I don't care how we get there, honestly. If I knew that we were in a much better situation to win the election in November and we needed to put Pauly Shore in there, I'd say put Pauly Shore in there. And it's not that I'm bailing on Joe Biden, but that election is the most important thing. It's not about personalities. It's about winning that election. And at this point, nobody can tell me that Joe Biden isn't the best choice. Based on his performance the last several times I've seen him speak, whatever these people are saying is not true because I don't fucking see it.
I think that people don't realize the people that Biden was able to cross over. A lot of independents, a lot of those never Trump Republicans, a lot of people who kind of like straddled the fence, maybe a little bit right leaning, and he just kind of, pulled them over to the other side. I think that if you put someone like Kamala Harris in there, as great as she is, like I could literally be here all day just listing everything that she's done since she's been vice president. I think it sets up a permission structure for people to excuse their vote if they either sat it out or if they decided to vote for Trump, because it would be, it's giving them an excuse not to do what it is that they know they need to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's good. I think when it comes to Gavin Newsom, I think he is just too easy to portray as like an elitist. Like he's slick, he has an excuse or something for everything. You know what I mean? Not only that, but I'm sorry, I know I say this every time I say his name. And I've been on conference calls with him, but I cannot get over the fact that he was with that gargoyle. I know she was a different person then, but for me, knowing how she is, especially when dealing with that family, she gotta know a secret or two. Especially at one point, like Fox News was like almost too eager to put him in. They were having him on all the time. He was going back and forth with Hannity. And I'm like, why are they just being so welcoming to him? And I'm like, oh, okay, because they got the gargoyle in the background and they know she got dirt. And it could just be a conspiracy, but that's what I'm thinking. And then we have 4 months and there's no perfect people. No. It's like Joe Biden, we already know his flaw was what? His son was a drug addict. Okay.
It's
But
been
if there's somebody else you put them in there, you have absolutely no idea what could possibly come up. And I'm like, why would we risk that with 4 months left? Not only that, but the people that Biden has brought over, and what's pissing me off is that they are not capitalizing on the fact of what just happened in France. Before then, what just happened in the UK. So clearly, this right wing movement that we saw and here and in other countries, they saw people stand up and be like, "Oh no, we not here for that." And it's
we
like they could easily say, "Hey, America, it's our turn in November to turn away fascism. It's
right.
our turn in November to make life better for the middle class, to make America work for all people." They should say that, and that could motivate and inspire people. Like, America used to be the leaders. Like, they used to look at us like, okay, this is what we should do. Like, they held us up here. But I feel like now when it comes to other countries, they look at us and be like, yeah, we don't want that. And so they
Right.
do the opposite because they
Right.
see what can happen if they do that. So it's kind of like we can step up and we can lead again, but we have to make sure that we don't fall into this trap.
We
And
need
instead of them
I
saying
need
that, they're just doing all this BS, and it's driving me crazy. I can't.
I need to clarify something. You said something, and for people who don't know, they don't understand what you said. You were talking about Gavin Newsom and the gargoyle. Now, not everybody knows this, and I've jokingly said I have to question his decision making. What you have to understand is Gavin Newsom back 15, 20 years ago was married to Kimberly Guilfoyle, who is Don Jr.'s current girlfriend, who is a fucking nutcase, a Trump humping MAGA piece of shit, dating this cokehead Donald Trump Jr.
Well,
And
in all fairness, she's a cokehead too.
well, yeah, that's probably true. But you're absolutely right. And that's what I've said. You're going to pull somebody out of a hat. And the first thing to do, the Republicans are going to go through every inch of what they have in their background. And they're going to pull something out minute and create a big scandal like they're doing with Joe now. And you're going to have 4 months to get through it and recover and prove they're lying. That's a hell of a risk. And and
Yeah.
and and you've got to look at the risk reward situation here, and pulling somebody out that somebody else wants because they're scared isn't a good decision.
Did you see what Donald Trump did? So after the debate, that next day, he had an event where, I mean, he was still talking about his phobia of, being electrocuted in shark infested waters. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And Biden, he got up there. Hey, when you fall down, you get back up. He had the crowd reared and ready to go. What did Donald Trump do after that? He went to Mar-a-Lago, he chilled, he ate him some Big Macs. He was on his golf court driving across the green, which is the laziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And he's just out there golfing, chilling, having a very good time. And he is not stressed about it. Why? Because Democrats was doing his dirty work. He didn't have to bash Biden. He didn't have to say anything bad about Biden. He's just up there chilling for like 10, 12 days, just chilling
Yeah.
because Democrats was doing the work for him. They're out here making the case against Biden. He didn't have to do nothing. He just sat back. You know what I mean? And just to watch that, it's like Trump is he just sitting there like a Cheshire cat, just grinning. You know what I
But
mean? Because he's watching the chaos that he created and he is enjoying it.
but don't you
And
think don't you think the Republicans and Donald Trump are getting a little nervous now? I know they're getting nervous. The whole Project 2025 thing, they're being connected to it, and they should be connected to it. Like you said, Donald Trump is all over it. And then you've got the Jeffrey Epstein thing and the documents that come out. He's in there 69 times, calling in, setting up appointments for massages. Now, I understand Congress is maybe looking at investigating the Jeffrey Epstein situation, which doesn't mean anything other than a lot of more evidence is going to get a lot more publicity. You can see that coming. That's what the Democrats are going to do. They're going to attach him to 2025, which is legitimate. They're going to expose Jeffrey Epstein, and it's going to be an October surprise that starts in July. That's that's the only way to look at it.
when I saw Congress come back, Democrats, and I saw AOC hit the ground with her articles of impeachment. I'm like, thank God. And then when I saw, I think it's Congressman Lou, when he stood up there and he was like, Donald Trump should drop out of the race. And he pointed out his connections to Jeffrey Epstein when he said he was on flight logs with underage girls. He is in photos with Jeffrey Epstein. You guys need to be asking him to drop out of the race. And then I saw Jasmine Crockett sitting on the floor and she was just like going at it. And I was like, thank you. Because it's like, when they were not there and it was just like the corporate Dems on like all of the news shows and the Sunday shows, they were just pounding against Biden. And so it's like a breath of fresh air when they came in and they started backing him up. The one thing I wish he would have said though, is because I was looking at those logs and I was always taught like 3 o'clock is the witching hour. But if you don't believe in that, I've done some things that would not make my grandmother turn over in her grave, but have her doing backflips up in there. And I can tell you, nothing good goes down at 3 o'clock in the morning. We
No,
already know what
definitely.
that phone call is about. So for him to be calling Jeffrey Epstein at 3 o'clock in the morning, come on now. So
Yeah.
I wish that I'm seeing that they're making that case. And so they're tying Trump to Epstein at every opportunity that they have. And I'm just looking at these other corporate Dems and I'm like, hey, why y'all out here talking trash? Take a page out of their book. There's too much ammunition to use against Trump when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and when it comes to his other shenanigans. It's way too much ammo. And we should be able to make that case and go on the offense and dish it
Well,
instead of just taking it.
and that's been the argument about the Democrats and Joe Biden. After the debate, it went bad for Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of incumbent on Joe Biden and the Democrats to start going on the offensive, to get tough, but they hung back. Joe didn't do anything for a few days, and then he did something. Then he didn't. There seems to be no urgency from the Democrats or Joe Biden about that situation. And I think that's what troubles a lot of people.
Yeah.
We need people that are tough. We need people that are assertive, and we need people that are willing to fight. And I think some people get the impression that the Democrats and Joe Biden aren't up for the fight. Now we're seeing it more, and hopefully it
Yeah.
will escalate. But I think that was part of the problem why Joe is in the position he's in now. He should have been more aggressive after the fact, and so should the Democrats.
Yeah, I watch like Lawrence O'Donnell, but Morning Joe, he talks over Mika, he talks over everybody
Yeah,
else, and
I
some of
don't
the
like
stuff that
him.
he says, I'm just like, I wish I was sitting next to him so I could put him in his place. But I got a text message from my friend Kim, and she's like, "Did you see Biden called in to Morning Joe?"
Yeah.
I was like, "He did what?" And so I immediately went and I watched it. And one thing Trump did, and I was like, I'm not Trump, but Biden. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's how you do it, is when he said that these are the elitists, right? He took a page out of Donald Trump's book, which was the right thing to do. Because with Donald Trump, he always says the swamp, the elitists, it's these people, it's that people. And when Joe was just like, hey, this is the elitist, the people is not with this. To me, that was not only hitting back, but it was him establishing the fact that he stands with the people. He doesn't stand with these corporate Democrats that's all on television talking trash.
Right.
And then that, and also when he went to the Waffle House and he dapped the guy up. Y'all got to be on Black Twitter because they was like, hey, look at how Joe dapping him up, a full hand dap up, right? So it's just kind of like showing that he does stand with the people, and it's not an act. This is something that he really does believe in, and he's been pushing for, and his policies back that up. So I think for him separating himself from corporate Democrats and putting himself with the people and going to the unions again, I think they're going to be surprised at what they get in November, as long as he can stay on this path of, I'm not going to just roll over and just take y'all crap. Even like he pulled the Trump move, like, hey, I'm just going to call into the morning show.
Right. Right.
Well,
Well, you know,
ask permission. I ain't going, you talking about me? Hold on. Let me call you. I can't come knock on your door so I can call you and say what it is that I got to say. So
you make a
it was
good
nice
point,
to
though.
see him do that.
You make a good point, though. In this whole process with dealing with Donald Trump and the Republicans, it's really easy for people to think Republicans, bad guys, all of them, Democrats, the good guys, all of them. And the fact of the matter is, not all the Democrats are good guys. Some of them are in the pockets of the big corporations.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's something in it for them to get Joe Biden kicked out of the way. And if you
Yeah,
trust every Democrat, you're fooling yourself. And this is what I've said before. When the Democrats beat out the Republicans, we still got lots of business to do with those Democrats. We got to straighten some motherfuckers out.
yeah. I look at that and I see, especially with when you're watching these news outlets, like the simple fact that those Epstein files were released and Donald Trump's name was all over them. 3 o'clock in the morning. Why are you calling a man who is a known prolific pedophile at 3 o'clock in the morning? Talking about massages and
Yeah.
being on a plane with him and children. Like they say, sex workers, underage girls. No, these are children. Like I don't understand. Well, I understand why they are not reporting on that, but it's like for regular people who actually look at those files, and then we turn on the news and they're talking about Biden should drop out of the race, and we don't hear them say anything about Trump and that Epstein connection. It pisses you off to the point to where you can see the
Right.
reason that they're doing that. And the reason that they're doing it is the policies that he's implementing, it does not benefit them. And they do not want to see him continue to do that. And so they're doing everything that they can to give Donald Trump a leg up. And I just don't see it working because too
So
many people know what's going on right now.
since the
And
mainstream
the worst thing
media,
they could have did was went public with Project 2025.
yeah,
They've been doing it and they've been implementing it this whole time. The only difference between them, like the Mitch McConnells, is they can keep a secret. They
yeah,
can go behind closed doors and make their little evil plans and all that stuff. But these new fools, they don't know how to do that. The architect of Project 2025 actually goes onto a morning show and say, hey, it won't be a bloodbath if Democrats don't let it be. And then he actually boasts about Project 2025. It's
yeah,
insane to think that you can actually go in front of the American people and say, hey, life as you know it, all these comforts that you have, all these rights that you are enjoying, yeah, we're about to take all of that away. I'm a proud white nationalist, just so you know. And then laugh about it because
right,
they know that their base, they've been living in that bubble so long that they are emboldened and they
right.
forget that the rest of the world is not MAGA. The rest of America is not MAGA. Once you get out of that bubble, you see what happened.
Well, the thing about it is with Jeffrey Epstein, the documents, and Donald Trump being all over them, and even Project 2025 to a certain
Yeah,
extent, the mainstream media um, should have been talking about this Jeffrey Epstein for the last 3 years, and they refused to do it.
absolutely.
So I'm going to insist on talking about it on TikTok and here, Jeffrey Epstein. That is egregious. That is horrible. When you look at, you look at him confessing to sexually assaulting women, when you have a book where his wife said he raped her, when he's been
Mhm.
found liable for rape, when he's got 26 women accusing him of assault, when you have a lawsuit where he's a co-defendant with Jeffrey Epstein for raping a 13-year-old woman. And now when he shows up in all these documents, I don't know how many fucking red flags you need before you investigate this shit and start to expose it. I will say one thing though. I think I was wrong about something. Kind of wrong, not I had good reason for doing it. But people kept telling me to go, you should do a show and read the whole 2025. And I said, I don't think it really has a good chance of becoming anything because they need the Democrats and they need the Republicans to win the House, the Senate, and they need the presidency, and none of that is going to happen. My fear was if I'm going to keep reading 2025, I'm playing right into their hands because they're all about fear. And if I'm going to sit on this show and make people fearful, I don't want to help them. However, now recently, when Project 2025 has been attached to them and it's bringing them down, I'm all in now. We'll talk
Yeah,
about 2025 as long as it's destroying the Republican Party. And it absolutely is. That and overturning Roe v. Wade and the immunity case from the Supreme Court. There are so many things that are working against the Republicans. I don't even
yeah,
know how anybody thinks they can win. I'm convinced the media is trying to do what a bookie or a fight promoter does. They're trying to make both sides look even so they have a big audience when the show hits. And I just think it's going to be, people saying it's going to be a landslide. Donald Trump's going to beat Joe Biden. That's fucking ridiculous. That makes no logic, no sense. The data doesn't support that. I wouldn't be surprised if Joe wins in a landslide.
Yeah, I think as horrible and as awful as MAGA has been for this country, the one thing that you can take away from it is A, they were incompetent, so they couldn't enact a lot of the agendas or plans that they promised to
Yeah.
their base. They don't know how government works, so they don't know that just because you have a majority in the House, your bill doesn't automatically go up. I mean, anybody who watched Schoolhouse Rock would know that. But not only that, these are not thinkers. These are not strategists. These are not prepared people. These are loyalists. And even when you look at the recruitment videos that they had for Project 2025, they were saying things like, when you listen to Steve Bannon, because there's videos out there of them recruiting people, is, well, we're looking for bodies. We're looking for loyalists that we can put in position. We're not worried about the training. We just need to make sure that you're loyal to Trump. And these were like younger people that they were talking to with no experience in government or anywhere else. I don't even know if they know how to bathe correctly. Like,
I
I
don't think
just
so.
feel like they were not looking for people who are thinkers, who can help them enact that agenda. And so I think that was the good part to come out of it, is that they were too incompetent to do what they wanted to do. But at the same time, they can shine light on it so that the rest of us will know what's going on. Case in point, I don't know how these people thought. Now, what Trump should have did was came out and said, hey, I don't know nothing about Project 2025. I don't know what they're talking about. He could lie, deflect, all that stuff, right? But I don't know how the alternative to Project 2025 was Agenda 47. I don't know if you read it, but it's like as sinister as Project 2025, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, like a little boy's imagination run amok in there, because there is a section in there about flying cars. They want to invest in that. The other part was when he wants to build like this big iron dome over America, like literally a big like metal dome over
Right.
America.
Right.
No, and then a lot of the stuff that he says, so he's just like, I can sit here and say, hey, I want to run for president because I will be the best person for the job, without saying what my plans are, without
Yeah.
saying what I'm going to do for the American people, without even having a plan as to how I'm going to get there. And so that's what it is. It's just saying that, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. There's no follow-up, there's no action, no plan behind it or anything. I think they think that if they just overthrow the government, they can just do all of these things, and that we're just going to sit back and watch them do that. And then I think that I was talking about some of it with my daughter, and she looks at it through like a psychology lens. And then she says, like, in certain points, you can see his delusion in there.
Yeah.
And she pointed to one point where he said that he's going to kick all of the immigrants out of the luxury fancy hotels. And then that's where he's going to put our homeless veterans. And when you think about it, where are the immigrants staying in these luxury fancy hotels? So there's no place to put veterans because we are not putting immigrants in luxury hotels. Like, it literally says that in there. And so she was pointing out all of these different things. So she's saying, like, some of the stuff that he says on stage is absolutely ridiculous, but when he puts it in print, it's showing that he is delusional about some of this stuff.
Well, and
I
it's not.
was looking at it and just laughing, but when you hear in writing in his agenda that he is saying we're going to move the immigrants out of the luxury hotels and put our homeless veterans in there, that's a delusion. And he
But
really does believe that.
but it's not
It's
limited to
so
Donald
weird.
Trump. It's not
No,
limited to Donald Trump.
yeah.
I heard, I don't know all the facts of this, but I heard there was a bill presented in the House yesterday
Oh, yeah.
that made
The
it
dishwasher
illegal.
bill.
No, I don't know. I don't know if it was the dishwasher bill. The one I heard was they want to make it illegal for people who aren't citizens of the country to vote.
Yeah. Mhm.
Fuck is that? Of course they
That's what I
can't
was.
vote.
That's what I was alluding to earlier. And I don't know if have you. Okay. there's a part in there, and I don't know if anybody has told you about this or not, but the parades that he wants to have,
Yeah.
that is so there's supposed to be a parade, and I think it's supposed to start on May 25th of 2025, and then it ends on July 4th of 2026. So it's like a years long parade that they're supposed to have. There's something else in there about Patriot games. When I was talking to my daughter about this, she said, "Man, this is going to be some Hunger Games type of stuff that he's thinking about." But the Patriot Games are not for like the military or regular people. It's for high school athletes that they're going to put them in these Patriot Games. And saying that out loud, I'm just now realizing how that sounds. Like
Yeah.
not reading it on paper, but actually verbalizing it out loud. It just took me back for a minute. I need to process what just came out of my mouth. But it's in there. Patriot games for high school athletes.
Wow.
So it's a lot of what he wants in there, and it's littered. It's filled with his delusions. But then it has the sinister undertones in there, such as getting rid of the Department of Education. If you graduate from a Christian school, that's going to be the equivalency to a bachelor's degree. So you can start seeing some of that stuff in there, but it's littered with his delusions, which I was like overlooking a lot of that. Like, this fool just crazy.
Yeah.
And then when you sit down with somebody who actually knows mental health and they're looking at it with a different eye, it's kind of like, how do you put somebody with that level of delusion into a position of being like one of the most powerful people, not just in America, but in the world? So where he's talking about Patriot games for your children, to where he's talking about everybody has to participate in a whole year-long festival, I guess just to celebrate him and his idea of America, and
Right.
all of this weird stuff that's in there. The flying cars, you can say, oh, okay, yeah, that's Elon Musk whispering in his ear. So you can see where some of that comes from. But everything else is kind of like, this doesn't make any sense.
No, it makes no
Delusional.
sense. And we're coming to the end of the show here, and I wanted to ask something, and I want to preface this by saying, when I watch some Democrats being interviewed, and I'll bring up Nancy Pelosi. Now, Nancy Pelosi was asked, "Do you support Joe Biden to run in November?" And she says, "I'm for whatever Joe decides to do." And that's an interesting comment. That doesn't show incredible support. It's kind of a cop out. But they keep saying that whatever Joe decides. Well, I'm not the smartest man in the world, but from what I heard of Joe, he's already fucking decided. So it's time to get on board with that. My question to you is this, because you've been pretty good at making predictions about the Supreme Court and all this stuff. We are where we are now with Joe. Joe's doing what he's doing. How does this all end up? What happens when we get to November? Is Joe the nominee?
I think, yeah, he's going to be the nominee. The first part about Nancy Pelosi, what she said, it was like right before that, Biden has said, "I'm staying in the race, knock it off." And then she follows that up with, "Well, I'm for whatever he wants to do."
Right.
When common sense tells you that Nancy Pelosi, is she smart? She's a really smart woman. She could have just said, "Hey, he just said he's staying in a race and I am going to support him."
Right. But
She couldn't
didn't.
say that. You
No.
have to look at her as a corporate Democrat. And one of the things right now that Biden is pushing for, and pushing for hard, is getting money out of politics. And we all know Nancy Pelosi and her insider trading and all that stuff that she does, she don't like that. In addition to that, she doesn't like the fact that he is saying that wealthy people need to pay their fair share, including Congress, including us. Like, we have to pay our fair share as well, and we have to show them.
Right.
Something else that he wants is the insurance that Congress has. Since they are a part of the American people, we should all have access to that same insurance.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi, she's smart, she's strategic, and she has a legacy that stands on her own. But I understand why she doesn't really mess with Biden like that, because a lot of the stuff that has kept her comfortable, he's coming for that. And it's crazy because she's not going to be any less comfortable. She's
No.
at a stage in her life right now where her money makes money. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, now you could just do so. You could sit back and chill and watch your generational wealth grow and do something for the American people. But I do think that greed creeps in no matter if you are Democrat or if you're Republican, if you are getting money under the table and you are used to a certain type of income and lifestyle, you're going to feel some type of way about what Joe Biden is doing. But it's for that fact that he's going to be the nominee. And that fact alone is why the people will vote for him.
Right.
Because we can see, especially the way that I've heard you say this a couple times on your video, what they are doing to Biden is like pushing people towards him, like it's actually elevating him.
Yep.
And the reason that it's elevating him is because what they're doing is they're causing a split with them on one side, the American people on the other side, and Joe Biden is standing on the side of the American people.
Right.
And I think so all of this crap that they're doing, and that's why you see a lot of people getting pissed off, is because like we can see him standing with us, but then we can see the corporate Dems, we can see the Republicans, the evangelicals, all those other people, they are on the other side against the American people. And I think maybe they shouldn't let us have seen those elections in France and in the UK, because now we fired up like, oh yeah, it's our turn now. They shouldn't have let us see that.
Well, the thing about it is that they keep having these meetings where they're having a meeting. Are they going to push Joe out? They can't push Joe out. Joe's got the delegates. He's got twice as many delegates as he needs. He's in there pretty solidly, and he's not going to let these people, Democrats or Republicans, take away the people's voice. That's the essence of what Joe Biden is about. So they keep talking about, we keep hearing on the media, is he going to get pressured out? No, if Joe doesn't want to go, he ain't going. And there ain't nothing they can do about it. They say, well, he's losing donors. Donald Trump isn't using any money for campaigning. Joe's already got a pretty good fucking war chest. So what?
You know what? You can threaten Joe Biden with losing donors if a bulk of that $250 million that he got sitting in the bank didn't come from small dollar donations.
There you go.
So he's not batting an eye when that Disney heifer is talking about she's withdrawing her money. He's not batting an eye when anybody else is sitting here. Let me tell you, Jack Black, my daughter's boyfriend, Zachary, when he came out and spoke for Biden, he lost his crap. Like people like, but he's not batting an eyelid when these corporations and these wealthy donors are saying, well, we're not giving him money. It's cool to sit there and say, okay, that's cool because I get most of my money from small dollar donations anyway. Yeah. So I ain't tripping. So I don't think that's going to work either.
No.
I had a question for you that I just thought about when you mentioned the delegations, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say because I don't know how I feel about this yet. So did you see that Nikki Haley got uninvited to the Republican?
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen with those Nikki Haley voters? Even though she came out and said that they could vote for Trump or whatever.
Right.
She didn't even have any like enthusiasm when she said it. It was kind of like, you tell me about your kid, you know what? Yeah, whatever. You can go ahead and have an extra cookie. I don't care. I don't want to deal with it. It's kind of like that's kind of how she was telling her people, yeah, I don't care. You can vote for Trump. I don't care. What do you think is going to happen with those Nikki Haley voters that did not like Trump? Are they going to sit it out? Are they going to vote for Biden? Are they going to go to Trump? I don't know how I feel about that. What do you think?
I think those votes for Nikki Haley weren't as much for Nikki Haley. They were against Donald Trump. And I think they will probably set it out, especially now when they pretty much told her to fuck herself. This is what they do.
You think they will be mad that they didn't invite her to the RNC?
Well, it depends on how they feel about Nikki Haley. I just don't think they like Donald Trump, and that's why they voted for Nikki Haley. She was the only really other option, and she wasn't even an option because she wasn't on the ballot. I think there's going to be a lot of people that that may have voted for Donald Trump in 2020, the 74 million that voted for him then that aren't going to vote for him this time. We know there is, because we know there's a certain percentage of Republicans that won't vote for him. We know there's at least 50% of the independents that won't vote for him. The people that voted for Nikki Haley aren't going to vote for him. Otherwise, they would have voted for him in the fucking primaries. Yeah, I think
Do you
Donald
think they
Trump is
sit it
going to
out,
lose.
or do they sit it out, or do they vote for Biden? That's what I don't know.
I think they're more than likely to sit it out. And
Mm.
I've said that before. If Donald Trump ends up not being the nominee, I think they sit it out. And that's what terrifies the Republicans. Because if they sit it out, Donald Trump's going to lose anyway. But so is all the down ballot shit. 30% of the people sit it out. That's why they're holding on so tight to Donald Trump. Not
Mhm.
for him to win, because they know he's not going to win, but all those reps and all those senators and all those legislators and the governors, they're going to be missing out on 30. I mean, people keep saying, oh, Republicans are going to win. Fuck you, you dumb son of a bitch. You've got abortion on the ballot in Florida. You got abortion going to be on the ballot in Arizona. You got
Yeah,
abortion that's going to be on the ballot in Arkansas. What do you think that's going to do? That's going to bring people out that think opposite of what the Republicans, and they could be Democrats or Republicans. They're going to lose Republican votes because of this. And in order for a Republican candidate to win, they need all the Republican votes and a lot of independent votes. And we know they've already lost them. So how do you tell me Donald Trump's going to win in a landslide? You're either lying or you're fucking stupid.
yeah. Or you really are saying that you're a Democrat, but you're not. And you don't like his policies because his policies is going to keep you rich, but it's not going to make you filthy rich. I think that's the that's the difference. You know what I mean? It's like the difference between a Porsche and a Rolls Royce or something. You know, I don't know what these people compare it to, but I do see that with the corporations. Um, Biden flipped the script on them, and I don't think that they like that. And I think that they are showing that in the way that they are blatant. I mean, talk about a dereliction. When you are a journalist and you don't report on his ties to Epstein, that's insane. But
Yeah.
when I was looking at every single CEO for every single news station, like every last one of them are donating to Donald Trump, it is insane to think that there's any part of them that has any journalistic integrity. Not only that, but you just showing your cards right there. You
Well,
donating to Trump, and you,
they can donate all they want to Trump, but it all
yeah,
goes to legal fees. It doesn't go into the campaign, so it doesn't do him any good in terms of his run for the
they
presidency.
really don't like them policies.
What I'm interested in seeing, what I would like to see is Joe Biden nominee winning in a landslide. Then we go to those Democratic politicians. Then we go to the media. Then we go to those pollsters and say, you fuckers are idiots. You're buffoons. These Democratic politicians should be primaried because they're
Yeah,
clearly not working for what all the other Democrats are working for. In the media, I can't think of one media outlet that I trust. The only thing I think positively about those people being fucked up, that's going to make people like me more valuable and more people like you valuable coming into the next 4 years because
yeah.
we're the only place they can trust to get real information.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of people think like, okay, yeah, once Trump's out of the picture, you can just be quiet. And it's like, oh no, I got my eye on so many of these people. And it's just kind of like if you give us a majority and there is one Democrat after what we done just been through with these shenanigans, with these MAGA Republicans, and we don't say, okay, the heck with this filibuster, and if we don't start pushing through our legislation, I think I'm gonna be beyond a problem at that point.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm already on a list somewhere, but I'm gonna go from being pretty sure to being I'm probably on a couple of lists
Well, here's the
because I
here.
do think we still have to hold our own accountable. We put you there for a reason, and we need you to fix up that Supreme Court. Women need their rights back. It's babies out here hungry, and that is a policy choice. That tax credit lifted so many children out of poverty. And the first opportunity that Republicans got, they came to Biden like, hey, if you want this money to Ukraine, you need to take away this child tax credit. Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
you trying to feed children? And we're not taking that in our state. And so I think that we put them in a position for a reason, and they need to remember who put them there. And we need to
The,
let them know. Democrat or not, if you're not willing to eliminate that filibuster, if you're not able to do what we wanted you to do, we're not going to be Republicans and just keep putting the same idiots in there over and over and over again that don't do anything. You can be replaced. I
Just
think that's going to be the message.
just so the people who listen to this show or TikTok or whatever, if you think after November when Joe Biden wins and the Democrats take the House and the Senate that Old Soul and I are going to chill out and vacation and just quit, oh no, I'm gonna get louder than a motherfucker then, and I know Old Soul will be too.
Yeah,
This is not a war between Democrats and Republicans. I firmly believe this is a war between we, the people, and all those motherfuckers in Washington to a certain extent. Some are good, some are bad, but as long as we have bad ones, we have a cancer in our government, and we've got to get the control back to the people.
yeah. And we have to hold our own accountable. What's something I found out that I thought was common knowledge, talking to Republicans when they say stuff like they feel like Trump is being targeted. Why can't we just do what we did with Nixon and just pardon him so we can come back together?
Yeah.
I would think that they would know, especially from a certain generation, that there was still people who went to prison behind Watergate. I think they had something like, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking 49 convictions. I know that they had like 69 indictments, 49 convictions. And you can see that right now. You can see people losing their law license. You can see people around Trump that have been held accountable and they have been going to prison and they've been suffering the consequences of what they did, but he isn't. And so it just makes the room for the next Nixon if we allow him to get away with it. But not only that, but if we don't hold our own accountable, then it would allow them to try to do the same thing in the future. And
Right.
so I feel like we have to hold them accountable. We don't want to repeat history. No matter how much you try to rewrite it, you can go to the 49 people and their families and ask them how was their prison sentence, knowing that they wouldn't be in there if it wasn't for the one man who they did not hold accountable. So it's
Right.
kind of like if you let that for every roach you see is 50 that you don't, we cannot let that one get away. We got to squish that roach in the corner So I'm a firm believer in holding my own accountable. So don't think because you're a Democrat you're safe. Do
Well,
what you're supposed to do. We be all right.
I think the important point you made was that as much as you might have Democrats, the media, and Republicans pushing against Joe Biden, trying to sink Joe Biden has put himself in the position standing behind American people.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to voting, you can talk about big donors, you can talk about the media, but it comes down to the people. And if he's standing with the people and they're fighting for him now, Joe Biden's going to be fine in November. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to wrap things up, Old Soul. We've gone really long this time. That's always
Yeah.
seems to be the case with you and
I'm
I.
I'm sorry that I won't be in the comment section this week. I typically am. And if I'm not on next week, of course I will be in the comment section, but um, that's just how it is sometimes.
You know, I was
But
just
I know
thinking,
people care, and I'm gonna be like, it's a whole lot of people out there listening that care. So I gotta be careful and make sure I get my butt back home.
I was thinking, Larry sent me a note. He wants to come back on for a rematch. We didn't have a rematch, dude. I wasn't arguing with you. I was debating with you and talking shit with you because you're a shit talker. What I'm tempted to do is maybe have Larry back on and have you back on, and I'll just sit back and watch because that would be good. That would be good.
you know, I got something positive out of Larry, right?
Yeah. Larry,
I like his wife, so I'm gonna keep that comment to
oh,
myself. But Larry don't want none.
you don't want that smoke, Larry. You don't
He
want
don't want that
Old
smoke
Soul
over there.
smoke. No, I like Larry too. He's a fine guy. His wife is wonderful, and
Yeah,
honestly, I think Alona basically was said, "I'm tired of hearing the shit. Go talk to the Rational Boomer guy, because
yeah.
he'll match your energy."
I
Anyway,
think he I think he is like the rest of the Biden needs to drop out type of people. I
yeah, he
think a
definitely.
lot of that is rooted in uncertainty and fear. But I do think that energy is better push towards making the case for Biden instead of making the case against him. Because when you make the case against him, you pretty much are a talking point for Republicans. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's something that he wants to do.
No.
So I do think that he could use that energy for something better
Yeah.
than what he's using it for.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and leave the mask and the props home. That didn't work. That didn't work. Anyway, now he's going to send me another email, Matt. You're picking on me. No, I'm not picking. Yeah, I am picking on you. That's what I do. I fuck with
He
people.
helped me. He did something good.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right. Well, Old Soul, we're going to wrap things up. I appreciate you coming on, staying long. You're going to Texas. Stay in touch with us. So um, I don't know where you'll be next week, but if we can connect up, we will. If we can't, we won't. But be safe out there.
All
And
right.
and I thank you for coming on the show and teaching us some lessons. When you and all the other listeners come on, the show gets even better because you guys know a lot more shit than I do about details. I'm just kind of a big picture analysis guy. You guys back up the things I say, thankfully, not because you're just trying to back me up, but hopefully because I'm on the right track with the things I say. So have a good trip, be safe, and we'll talk to you as soon as we can, as soon as you're available.
Yep. Thanks for sharing your platform.
No problem. No problem. And for all of you listening, thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.